Welcome to the Past Lives Cafe. I am your host, Chione, an intuitive energy worker and acclaimed past life regressionist. Come with me as we journey through the spiral of time to forgotten places. I am so happy to introduce my friend and talented psychic medium, Suzi Maxwell. She is a metaphysical Christian with a strong knowledge of biblical scripture and an unconventional spiritual journey, which she will share with us. We have been friends for close to 7 years and couldn't be more polar opposite in politics, international relations, the justice system, taxes, health and wellness approaches, and yes, even the census. But our mutual love and respect for humanity and all living sentient beings has bridged those gaps. Suzi, thanks again for being here, especially when I know you're not feeling well. For those of you listening, you'll be able to hear how hoarse Suzi is, and I just can't thank her enough for honoring our commitment for this interview and for sharing her personal perspective on past lives and the amazing and unique experiences that she had during her regressions. So, with that, let's get started. Suzi, I'd love if you could share a little bit about your spiritual journey.
I've always been able to see, hear, speak to ghosts, demons, angels, entities. I would be in my room freaking out saying, there's somebody in here, and my parents would walk in and I'd be pointing at them. They'd be standing right there. Yeah, tell me I was losing my mind. Go back to bed. Over the years, finally, my mom realized that this really was happening. From my childhood, things would happen, or I would be told something spiritually, and I would verbalize that, and then it would happen, to the point that there were several deaths. I think I was probably in my maybe 16 or 17. And I told my mother that this one was going to pass away at this point, and then, however many months later, so and so was going to pass away. It got to the point where I actually asked for that to stop, because all I ever did was predict death or bad things. And that's not who I wanted to be. And I think in some ways I'm a harbinger, but I was warning people long before they died. I mean, I kind of still see the writing on the wall, but it's not as specific. I didn't know what to do with it. There were instances where there were demonic presence in a home. I knew enough to call on my faith and call on Christ to give me the power to say, get out. You're not welcome here. I have this ability to stand in the face of evil and make it leave, or make it leave me alone. When I bought this property is protected. Anyone who walks onto the property does not ever have a negative experience here. I am surrounded by legions and legions of angels. I've seen them. They're here all the time. But I didn't go down the rabbit hole until I moved to Florida, and then I broke my right arm. I was unable to do anything, and I was really down. And I woke up one morning and realized that I was raised in church. I was raised with the doctrines. I was raised with the legalistic parts of Christianity. But I woke up one morning and realized I didn't know what I believed anymore. I didn't know what to do. And then God, and again, I don't like labels, whatever you want to call whatever created us, that spoke to me. Yeshua was the Christ, was the Messiah in scripture. If that's what happened and that was the reality, and that's my reality, that Christ exists, Yeshua did what he did, then you were going to have to re-educate me. In the education, I did find out that in fact, it happened. Scripture is very important to me, as long as it's read correctly. There are some really, really good teachers. I don't even like calling them preachers, because that's really not what they are. There are teachers that have gotten it. They're like, oh, wait a minute. The Bible talks about Enoch, but who is Enoch? You have to go back to all of the old documents, not just what they decide it was okay to be put on the Bible. The Bible, in my opinion, people think it contradicts itself, but it doesn't. It's the interpretation where the contradictions come from.
You were calling on God, or at least God came to you. What did God say to you about your role? Or what did God say to you that shifted your perspective about what your role was?
I can astral when I'm awake. You do astral when you sleep. A lot of people can't, but that's okay. That's not necessarily their gift. Literally, I was answered by going astral and walking with Yeshua, planting a garden. It was a huge garden. And it was back in that time when he walked the earth. And we were planting seeds. So we got to the end of the row and we're talking, and I'm telling him about confusion and how I feel, and him explaining to me that I chose this and I just don't remember choosing it. That going forward after this conversation, that I would remember a lot. I would remember sitting down, writing the contracts. At the end of the row, we stopped and I turned around and went to go start covering seeds back up. And he said, "Don't do that. That's not your job." And I said, "But if we don't cover them up, seeds don't grow." "Yeah, but somebody's going to come behind us and they're going to cover up the seeds. And then someone else is going to come behind them and they're going to fertilize and water the seeds. You'll be lucky to see 2 of those seeds grow to maturity in your lifetime. You are a seed sower. That's your job. You start the process. These people come to you and they talk to you because you are open-minded. You're not hard set on any one religion. You can talk to people about how your relationship with me incorporates into what the realities of the world you exist in are. Look where you are today. When we met, you walked up to me, and because I was speaking to some kid about being a ghost, you looked at your sister and said, "I'm going to go talk to her." Well, in the beginning, you and I did a lot of talking. I did a lot of seed sowing. And now you're on your journey with the QHHT. But it's been wonderful to watch your progression, even with your spirituality. In the beginning, I was trying to fix everyone. I was trying to do it for them. And then I realized that that was killing me. So then I started assigning homework. That was my job. And most people that I counseled in the beginning are now on their own journeys and they're doing very well. I think I told you when I did wake, it was like I was hearing almost like a scratchy 2-watt walkie-talkie. The switch just went on.
Right.
And literally talking to a ship. There you are. Something's not right. All your lights aren't coming on, meaning my chakras weren't clear. Something wasn't right there. They had to come in and actually do some repairs. The medical team came in and fixed things. Of course, I wasn't sitting in my living room and these beings showed up and they started working on me. Certainly it was, during meditation, in my sleep, that kind of thing. I remember having to have the full 100% trust because I can actually see it still in my mind how it happened. It was like they had to connect me back, like almost jumpstart me. It was really interesting. In my brain, there was like this board sticking out, connective device. And then this golden wiry looking thing wrapped around that. And as soon as it did, it was like I was completely changed. I will never forget that. I woke up the next morning, had understanding. And not all of it, but I had a better understanding of what was going on. So then that's when I would start working on clearing my chakras, opening my third eye, getting connected to source. Do all the answers come? No. Well, I'll tell you the truth, especially if it has to do with myself. I get a lot of information for other people. And yourself, I rely on you sometimes to get that connection for me because they don't give me a lot of answers about myself.
It is so hard to get clarity about yourself. I think our egos or something I hate the term ego, but I think that there's a little protective wall that stands in our way.
The Bible's pretty clear about that physical body is the sinful part. So I think when I go into meditation, I literally have heard my spirit tell my ego to sit down and shut up because I was overthinking. In the physical body, you overthink all the time. But once you get into spirit, the connection is so solid that you literally can tell your physical body to just sit down and shut up.
Everyone can now see why I was chomping at the bit to facilitate a session with Suzi with QHHT because of her ability to connect to God, source, goddess, all there is, whatever the terminology is for you. We'll call it God. In this episode, the fact that she had such a visceral connection with God and such amazing recall, I knew that her session would be exceptional because when she drops into a meditative state, when she drops into even a light dream state, she is able to astral travel easily. And so I knew there wouldn't be a lot of ego wall to get past to get you into that meditative state because you do it yourself all the time.
Right.
So, one of the first things that I saw while Suzi was dropping in, I saw her in an Egyptian type environment. She appeared to be some sort of sorcerer or magician. And when I say sorcerer or magician, I mean in her connection to the land. And I remember feeling that she was used in a powerful way to help others connect, including the royalty, to connect to their sun god, their source. I just had these really clear visions of that. And then we were talking about the fact that you believed that this was your first time on this earth plane in a 3D vibe. And we kind of deconstructed if my vision of what I was seeing was true and not just an archetype of some sort, how that could be. And I think you and I came on the idea that it doesn't mean that you couldn't be multiple places at one time. Do you remember
Right.
our having this parallel dimensional type of discussion, which really intrigued me because who's to say that you and I talking on this podcast in another dimension or plane of this existence aren't standing in Egypt somewhere taming an asp? And I said
Mm-hmm.
asp, ASP, or taming an ass.
Two of them.
When we started going down that rabbit hole, that really intrigued me. And then I thought, okay, this is getting a little bit out there. This episode is not about my vision of what I was seeing while you were regressing. This is about your experience. And I want you to explain how you saw yourself. I think Lyra was the first place you saw. So once she regressed, she just super quickly started talking about her experience as a Lyran. So I'd love for people to hear that experience. And could you first, Suzi, tell people what being a Lyran even means?
Sure. Actually, it was really interesting. Avatar, when I watched the movie, resonated with me. And this was before I woke, before the switch got flipped on. Was recognizable.
Did you feel like it was a memory or something
Very
that
close
felt?
to a memory. Yeah, it was very close to a reality that I had lived in. The forest and stuff on Lyra was more like a purplish blue. Most of Avatar stuff was like the blues, hues. But the fact that they were these cat type humanoids resonated. I mean, it just like hit me like a bomb. I remember having like a bluish tint fur in my body. And the body that this body is very frail compared to the bodies that we had on Lyra. Any of the Egyptian gods or goddesses that were humanoid lions, that's who we are. That's who we were.
Lyra was a civilization.
Yes, absolutely. It was a planet. Yeah. And the reason I think that Lyrans were so apt to want to help humanity is because our planet was destroyed similarly to the way that things are going with humanity. It was almost you like parachuted me in, my feet hit the ground on Lyra. I was standing in a base, like an almost like an airport space base kind of thing. It was kind of like the compound, in that you see in Avatar, but not because the buildings were definitely different. It was more almost to me, it looked like I don't know if you've ever seen where they drape and pin the corners and have it like a mushroom top to the buildings. They were there, and there were these vehicles I can't even describe there. And then looking around, we were getting ready to leave because we knew we had lost. We were going to lose the planet. Now, outside of that compound, of that base, was the jungle, which was very similar to what portrayed in Avatar. I talked to trees, for goodness sake, and they talked back to me. And not all trees, but the witness trees. These trees, they developed a face when they were talking to me. And, when you find out that everything is connected, on Lyra, it was that way. Everything was very, very connected. And there, you absolutely have to thank everything for you to survive. It doesn't matter whether it's got a cute little face, it doesn't matter what it is, you have to eat in order to survive in the physical body, which means that cabbage that was growing had to die in order to sustain your body. So you have to be thankful for absolutely everything you take in. And if you're not and you take it for granted, that's when you get sick. Going back to Lyra when we went through that regression was amazing. And it made me long for home. I'm not going to lie, but home no longer exists because that planet's destroyed. And then we jump further into the future in that same existence. And then it was us reaching, I wanted to say that we were in Pleiades, where we had gotten to that base.
It's another planetary civilization.
Right. We all were working together to figure out what we were going to do to help humanity, where the contracts came in. I remember sitting for my contract. It was a very white environment. I mean, the chairs were white, the tables were white, the walls were white, no windows that I can remember. Kind of don't even remember where the door was. And sitting down and a group of people basically writing out the play. It was like writing a play. It was writing a script for what was going to happen in this life. Who was going to play the bad guy? Who was going to play the mom? Who was going to play the dad? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be physically abused by my father for years of my life, constantly putting myself in positions where I was being abused. Having taken a physical form in 3D and actually experiencing these things, it's heart wrenching, it's gut wrenching. And then have to dig yourself out and figure it all out. So when I realized that the reincarnation thing, yeah, people say, how does that mesh with Christianity? There's only so many souls to go around. When you pass this body and you leave it, just keep going straight back to source. Just keep going straight. The angels will be with you, but ultimately you have a choice.
What Suzi just characterized was the experience she had when we did a QHHT session. And we didn't even fully complete it because one of her amazing cats jumped on her right as she was talking about the concern that lady in civilization had for humanity. And then her cat jumped on her and
lost the thought mid-sentence.
Yep, she lost the thought mid-sentence, and then we both decided that we were starving. I recall that. And 3D needs came into play, and we decided to break there. But what I thought was so amazing about it was she was describing so crystal clearly the fact that colors in the Lyran world were so incredibly vivid. I remember even your saying that there were colors you didn't even know how to describe.
Hmm.
And then in the Pleiadian world, about how clean and crisp everything felt, and how the one thread that still connected, though, in either civilization that you felt super connected to and involved in, was this thread of love and humanity and concern
Hmm.
for where we were going as a group of people, and how just that connection, as foreign, and I think that was the thing that got me most of all, is as foreign as both of those sound to what our 3D lives are right now, that common need for love, community, and connection with source was a common theme in both otherworldly experiences.
Hmm.
And so the question then comes, do you believe that you truly lived those other lives, or do you think there are manifestations of maybe archetypes or concepts that you just feel connected to, this connection like you described on Lyra, or this feeling of orchestrating contract and why we're here? Do you think you actually did those things?
I definitely lived it. It's just as tangible to me that I lived that life as it is that I'm living this one. The smells. Actually, it's kind of plagued me since the QHHT because the smells were different. The flora was different. Everything was different. I mean, and it was indescribable, beautifully indescribable on Lyra. Then you get to the Pleiadians and everything's very, I don't want to say disinfected, but it's very clean and very, it was sterile. So going from being on Lyra and having all this beauty and just having the foliage and the water and everything was just gorgeous actually. And I think what really got me even about the Avatar movie was seeing that they had these planets literally that they could see. It wasn't like here on Earth where the Earth existence is what we see. We have a moon. This was like a moon, two, three moons, and a planet, couple planets that you could literally see around the planet you were on. And then going to Pleiadians. And yes, we wanted to do that because we wanted to hook up with other civilizations and other like minded. We don't want this to happen again anywhere in the universe because there were things out there that don't like the love and light. I guess the best way that they could explain it to me so I would understand it with my human thought process was that our universe, little portion of it, has been quarantined from the rest of the universe because they can't let it get out. It'll destroy the entire existence of everything. We have to get the universe back to love and light only. And that's what we're here to do.
Do you think a past life regression can be healing or helpful?
Oh, yeah. I already knew who I was and what I was.
Right. So it was a confirmation for you.
Okay, so but what does that mean? What
Right.
does it mean? So I'm Lyran. Define what that means. Doing the QHHT took me back to where I lived, where I loved, where I had my family, where I worked.
I did ask Susie if she recalled knowing anyone from this life while she was visiting Lyra, and she did confirm that a lot of the individuals she ran into were quite familiar to her.
Where I worked. I mean, work is not a great word because it was like a collective effort. Everybody did. It wasn't work, it was more of community.
Communal contribution.
Yeah, but to be able to see it, I saw it. And I always wanted to see it. And I think I always knew that Avatar kind of was resemblant of it, but it wasn't it. I actually got to go there. And I think that that was probably one of the most healing things for me was to be able to see where I came from, know the path that I took to get here. was what was awesome. And I think had the cat not jumped on me, I think we would have really had a really, really good idea of the progression, how it all worked, how I ended up in this physical 3D body I want to get rid of, you know?
Yeah, we'll definitely keep going because I was literally talking to some other QHHT practitioners about that amazing session. And I had people tell me, you two should write a book.
Yeah.
Whether you want to call it alien, whether you want to bill it as otherworldly, it doesn't even matter. However, people come to it, whether it's through fantasy, whether it's through metaphysical connection, it was just so beautiful, but also so unbelievable based on what we know here that people would be drawn to it. I agree that we should continue with that. Well, we're being facetious about the cat. The one thing that happens in almost every session is that for whatever reason, animals love that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so Susie is a diehard animal lover. She's got horses, she's got donkeys, she's got goats. She had a potbelly pig. She has cats, dogs, you name it. I don't know. Next time I go to her farm, unicorns. But the thing is, she loves all animals. And the fact that they had allowed us that much peace and quiet for as long as they did threw me. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. And I give them a lot of credit.
I do believe that the animals that are in our lives, that are put in our lives, are earth angels. They are the physical embodiment of protectors, angels that love you unconditionally. We get frustrated with them because they act like animals, you know, and we really don't want them to. We all miss Rowdy. I didn't realize she was aging. She's my service dog, or was my service dog. And I would get frustrated with her because she wasn't performing her job. And then after the fact, and after, you know, I had to relieve her of her physical body, I realized how restrictive this meat suit is. But the 3D existence is very heavy.
You had such a remembering experience, and the colors, the smells, the textures, the community was so tangible to you. And I'm speaking about both civilizations that you visited, but particularly Lyra. What would you say to someone who believes they have a connection with other civilizations, whether it's Earth civilization or non-earthly civilization? What would you recommend to them as far as seeking a connection or digging deeper into what that connection might mean? Specifically, if they're worried about hypnosis, because you and I both know hypnosis is literally just a meditative stillness that you allow yourself to explore. Do you recommend to that person who is dying to jump in, but is fearful of either losing control or they don't think they can do it?
Well, if you had told me that I would ever be able to be in a meditative state, hypnosis, whatever you want to call it, years ago, I'd have called you a liar. I didn't trust people to be honest in what they were doing. I didn't want someone to take control of me. A lot of people feel that way. What I can say, if you're working with anyone who has gone through the QHHT training, you can trust her. One. Two, she is never going to put you in a position, no one in this community anyway, is going to put you in a position of being in danger. I think that you should explore where you come from, because there's a lot of you in 3D that doesn't make sense to you. You don't understand why you feel the way you do, or why you think the way you do, why things are happening around you that you don't understand.
That's a good point.
Yeah, did that tree actually communicate with you? I questioned these things. Was I going crazy? Am I nuts? No, I'm not. I'm not nuts. I was born into this world gifted for a reason. Most of you are. And if you're confused about the whys or the whats, definitely, if you feel a connection to the Pleiadians, if you feel a connection to the reptilians, if you have that connection, you need to explore it. And the reason is it gives you peace. It really does. It brought peace to me because I wasn't constantly trying to figure out why, the whys, the hows. How did I become this person? How do I know what I know? Definitely explore it. Trust the process. And sometimes that process doesn't take the first time. Try it over again. Find out where you come from. What is your connection to source? What is your connection to other individuals around you? You and I, like you said, are two polar opposite people. Polar opposites when it comes to a lot of things. We shouldn't be friends.
We have mutual love and respect for each other, which means you're political, you're religious, you're spiritual, and any other view is yours and it's not hurting me.
Right.
And mine isn't hurting you. So why can't you have it?
Exactly.
How is you're having a specific viewpoint hurting me?
Mm-hmm.
And we've never argued about it.
Something we just agree to disagree and change the subject. And that's what this is all about. It's teaching people can be different, totally different, and still love each other. You know, I classify you as my sister and my best friend.
Right.
I feel like we both said this. But I feel like I had known you all my life. We've only in actuality been friends for what, 6 years now? If you had told me prior to that that I would ever be friends with somebody whose viewpoints were so completely different than mine, I would have been like, I just don't think that would work because it just really, in humanity, in 3D, that's what happens. The fact that you and I love each other, we have our own perspectives, we have our own ideas, we have our own whatever political views, just shows that it is possible, absolutely possible, for the entire world to have the relationship you and I have. There's no reason that people should be killing each other. There is no reason that the fight and argument needs to go on. Just learn to love each other and respect each other and move on. It's not hard.
It's not hard. And I think the common denominator outside of humanity is that I know for a fact that you and your family have nothing but the best interest for humanity in mind. And our approaches are different. That's it.
Mhm.
How can I dislike someone who wants to ensure that love and connection are our priority? How could I possibly dislike that?
But people do. I mean, because you got the Muslims hating the Christians, you had the Christians hating the Muslims. I mean, come on, in reality, stop it. You know, a lot of the stuff that you have been indoctrinated into, and that's what it is. It's why they call TV programming, for God's sake. You've been programmed to believe you
Good
have
point.
enemies in this world. We do not have enemies. We are all human. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what your faith base is. I don't care what you think. I don't care any of those things. I may not agree enough with someone that we're close, but I would never.
Wish you harm.
Exactly. I'm not going to say you shouldn't, because I've come to the understanding if we all came here on this mission with 100% of the knowledge, we would be gods here. And that's not what the point was. You were given your mission. I was given my mission. Just because our missions aren't the same doesn't mean we're wrong. It just means we were told to do it the way we're doing it. You're going to reach people don't have a Christian background. I'm going to reach Christians. I'm going to reach them at a level because that's my understanding. And that's the point. We're not wrong. We are all given the gifts we are given to use to bring humanity to the point. Love is what matters. We love each other. I love you. I don't care what you say or do. You love me. You tolerate me. No, I'm just kidding. The only thing I've ever held against you is you moved to Delaware. Now I know you move further away. Just keep doing you. Be love in the world. When it comes to overwhelming, there's nothing wrong with retracting yourself from the world to recuperate. But definitely always walk out your door with the mindset that this is what it's about. We are to love each other in spite of our differences.
Thank you so much, Suzi, for sharing your light and love with me today, and your amazing experience, and for just speaking so eloquently about the experience that we shared. And your last statement on sharing our love and sharing our light is the most perfect thing that I can ever end on. Thank you, my friend.
This concludes today's Past Lives Cafe podcast episode with Suzi Maxwell. We hope she feels better soon and that her physical voice soon rejoins her powerfully spiritual one. If you would like to discuss Suzi's experiences on Lyra or Pleiades, or would like to schedule a psychic, mediumship, or spiritual coaching consult, please contact Suzi via email at Suzi, S-U-Z-I, Lynn, intuitive68 at gmail.com. That information will be in our show notes. If you or someone you know would like to discuss your past lives experience on the podcast, please email me at Chione, Chione, at quantumjourneygo.com. Finally, please check out the Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast, a safe space for all spiritual seekers, which I co-host with Chloe Brown. And remember, while we can't relive the past, together we can heal it. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in my services, visit me at www.quantumjourneygo.com or drop me a note at pastlivescafe.buzzsprout.com. Stay well and be present.